On this week's The Next Interview, you'll hear Claudio Reilsono explain exactly why the right people, not the most talented, determine whether leaders build trust, accountability, and winning teams. Now let's meet our host, Doland White, and get started.
Welcome to the Next Interview Show podcast. And as the announcer mentioned when we came through the front door, I'm Doland White. I am the host of the Next Interview Show podcast. And I'm always blessed to have amazing conversations about leadership, life, and then we may throw a little baseball in here somewhere today. We may slip some coaching in and all this. And today my guest is Claudio Reilsono. I got to go. I'm going to say it right. Claudio Reilsono, and it's Italian, so I should actually put a little more Reilsono on it. So it goes that way, because my wife being Italian from Chicago. But I want to just start with some gratitude. There's a bunch of other stuff you could be doing with your time. You're going to hang out with me for a half hour or 40 minutes today to have a conversation about leadership. So I want to tell you thank you for being here, and thank you for taking time to talk to the listeners today.
Oh, my pleasure. I've been looking forward to doing this. And, Jim Valvano, one of my favorite people in the world, a friend of mine, his favorite word, he said his favorite word in the English dictionary was the word impact. So
that's
hopefully
our goal.
We can have a little
That's our goal. So I'll remind listeners, go get your pencil and paper, because this will be for this conversation. I want to make sure you guys walk away with something that's applicable and actionable. So for the listeners that haven't met you, Claudio, I want to just take a couple of minutes, and if you don't mind, just kind of walk through your journey, a little bit about what brought you to where you are today and who you are, and then we'll step off the curb and we'll talk about leadership and some other topics today.
Well, to begin with the end, I am the head baseball coach at Carnegie Mellon University. I'm going into my 21st year, and I'm going into my 25th year as a professional baseball scout, general manager with the Global Scouting Bureau, which was the original dream, was to be in professional baseball. When did that? And I also have a couple podcasts, host a TV boxing show, co-host of a radio show, wrote a book, which we'll talk about, do some speaking, and all that's under my company, the umbrella of Claudio Reilsono Enterprises. I own a landscaping business, so I do all kind of stuff, baseball training. But yeah, it all started baseball-wise for me. August 19th, 1973. Wow. I can be that specific with you. I was 8 years old. My uncle used to work at Three River Stadium, where the Pirates and the Steelers played. My mom and dad were from Italy. They liked boxing and soccer. So I went to that game that day and saw that big, beautiful building and walked in. And I remember he worked in a place called the Allegheny Club, which was a restaurant, a fancy restaurant inside the stadium. And he was the assistant GM. So I remember we took this elevator up, and elevator opens up, and first thing I saw was to my right was a beautiful colored picture, beautiful frame of Roberto Clemente, who had passed about several months prior. So then I'm walking through the hallway, and again, beautiful wood, and seeing all these pictures of some guy named Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Joe Green and all these guys, right? Franco Harris. And I didn't know who the heck they were at the time. I had heard their names. I just knew who Clemente was. And then he took me down to the locker rooms. Then I seen these big guys in this bright white uniform that said Pirates on it, laughing, joking around, and talking to me. And I didn't know who they were. Then I snuck out on the field, up the ramp.
Yeah.
And this was at 10:30 in the morning. It was on a Sunday. And the only people that were in the stadium were me and the grounds crew. And it was a 58,000 plus seat stadium. And man, it was like Pete Maravich used to say, having toothpicks in your eyes. It was like, what? And I was silent there. And then we watched the game. And all this stuff happened before the game. So I remember coming home, and where I'm at right now is the house I grew up in. So I come into the door, and feet from where I'm sitting right now, my dad asked me, "Did you have a good time?" My dad, Olindo. I said, "I did, Dad." I said, "But I know what I want to do with the rest of my life." Now, remember, I was 8. He said, "Well, what's that?" I said, "I want to work in professional baseball." That's all I said. Yeah. Because I loved being in that atmosphere. Then my mom came over, and she said, "If that's what you want to do," and my dad said the exact same thing. "If that's what you want to do, me and your mother will do everything we can to give you every opportunity in the world to make your dreams come true. And I tell you, a few years ago, I saw this quote and I used it for this award that I won. And it said, if you ever see a turtle on top of a fence post, you know he didn't get there alone. So without question, and if I talk about it too much, I get emotional. I would not have the life I have if it wasn't for my mother and father. They taught me so much. They supported me. They loved me. They believed in me. And then now I'm very blessed to have a wonderful wife, Linda, and a wonderful daughter, Ida, who just graduated from Duke University grad school a couple weeks ago. And we named her after my mom, Ida. But again, if whatever talent I have or don't have wouldn't have mattered if my parents would not have given me that opportunity and to fulfill my dreams. So that's how it all started.
That story. So it is that gift, right? As parents that we get to give our kids is that unconditional love and that unconditional support to give them the ability to go. I was blessed with 5 sons. So, and now they're all having girls. So I'm learning all about girls, but different conversation. That's a much harder ticket. Girls are much harder ticket.
That's it. It was a lot of ups and downs for sure. And people ask about what was the big thing on how I got from point A to point B, and it was perseverance. Because I had about 130. Well, playing wise, I was a good player. I had 3 tryouts. One with Baltimore, one with Pittsburgh, and another one with Pittsburgh. The first 2, I had some injuries, but the third one with the Pirates, I was completely healthy, was ready to go, worked my tail off. I used to run with ankle weights. I would go to Mowen Elementary School with a lacrosse ball and throw it against the wall and work on my hand glove, my reaction. I was blessed with a good arm. My dad used to hit me flies. I used to go to the batting cage and hit. Go to the tryout, and I'm ready to go. And let me stop there. As wonderful and supportive as my mom and dad were, I had some people in my life that weren't so wonderful and supportive, that wanted to see me fail. That wanted to, just wanted to see me fail. Okay. So I had that, on my mind. Yes, I want to make my parents proud, but I also want to, show them, right? So I go to the tryout, and the first thing you do is you run the 60, the 60-yard dash. So I always, the scouts, we like it 7.0 and under. So I used to run about a 7.0, 7.04 in that world, in that ballpark. But I was a good base runner. So they tell you to run. So I'm running. I take off. So I'm dating myself here, but I started doing like the Chariots of Fire, the slow motion. And I could actually, I'm not kidding you, Dolan, I could actually see my fists pumping. And man, what the hell?
Right.
What is going on here is what I said. I could hear myself thinking that. And is this an 80-yard dash is what I said to myself. So I get there. And I didn't even want to know the time because I knew it was bad. It was really bad. So then I said, well, I was blessed with a very good arm, So they put you in the outfield, which I also played the outfield as well. So they rolled me a ball, and I threw it as hard as I could. My mechanics were great. My momentum was great. The alignment was perfect. 2 weak bounces to third base. And I never did that. It was either straight or one hop. So I remember going like this, shaking my arm. I don't know, how you do that, Give me another ball. Wow. 3 bounces. The third ball, and this is back in 86, the third ball is still rolling. And, never got there. So then I remember sitting down and waiting for I said, I'm a really good hitter. I'll show them how well I can hit. I was a good line drive spray hitter. Well, they announced all the people they wanted to go hit to the next level. They didn't mention me. My dream was done. And for some reason, I had a smile on my face, but I wasn't happy. I could still see myself. I remember putting my head down. Now I got to go home and tell my parents that I didn't make it. And then those people who didn't want me to make it, they're going to laugh. And I said, I didn't want to disappoint my parents. Well, my parents said, that's okay. Just keep at it. Well, it was getting a little long in the tooth for baseball. I said, well, you know what? I've been a volunteer assistant for 5 years in coaching. I'll just slide into that. Long story short, I was named head coach in my old high school. at age 23. Then the next year at age 25, I was head coach at college at
Sure.
Penn State Beaver branch campus. We won a championship. We win a championship. And I remember it was on my dad's birthday and my mom's 2-year anniversary of passing away. That's where this ring is from 1990. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
why this is so special, because of that date. So I'll never forget, Dolan. We're winning at the time 13 to
Right.
nothing. So I knew we were going to win the championship. Straight ahead was the Penn State football field, Beaver Stadium. Then there was a space. Then over here, an agricultural building. So I had my foot on the dugout step. I'm looking in between buildings, and I said, I'm 25. My first year as a college head coach, I win a championship. I'm going to start contacting pro teams. They're going to bust the door down for me, right? Well, it took another 11 years before I got my pro opportunity, and 137 rejection letters. But so it took, as Jim Valvano used to say, it took me 20 years to be an overnight sensation.
It's funny you mentioned that, because one of the words that you were talking about earlier is that word perseverance. Is that to persevere through all of the no's. The no's are yes, the opposite of the Pareto. There's 80 no's to 20 yeses. So it flips the other way around there. Yeah,
Right.
that's such a good story. I think from a leadership perspective, it is that, one of the things I love talking about is one is recognizing your passion and acknowledging your passion. And in the body of that passion, it's not always necessarily applied the way you think it's going to be. Because there's the old saying, a colloquialism I talk about sometimes around, we make these wonderful plans and they're all on paper and we got all these lists and we put it down on the desk and then God laughs at us.
Isn't that the truth? Or somebody throws grapes in your path, which actually did happen to me. That's in the book.
That's good.
But
so
anyway.
let's talk. I want to talk a little bit about your book, because one of the things that attracted me to having this conversation with you, other than your background, was the title of the book: "Lead from the Heart Up, Not the Neck Up: How to Create a Positive Winning Culture on the Field and in the Office." And because I think one of the things, as a head baseball coach and as a scout, there's the opportunity to recognize talent, but then what do you do with it? And that's that part about building that culture. So I'd like to let's spend just a minute or two talking about the book. I want to kind of know what prompted. First of all, what prompted you wrote it in 2020? What kind of prompted you to write the book? And then I want to get into the tenets of team building, people, and we'll dive into good people a little bit.
Right. It's all very simple. We were playing a game. Really, and again, it's included in the book, at a very, very incredibly special. I've been very blessed to have special people to coach, which we will get into. But it was on my birthday, and after the end of the game, my players said, "Coach, don't leave yet." They brought me a birthday cookie. And they sang happy birthday. Not very well, but they sang it. But on the other side, on the other team, there was arguments between the coach and the players. And I heard some different things. And I said, and this may sound, arrogant, and I don't mean for it to. I said, you know what? I think I can help coaches and leaders become better at what they do by cultivating better relationships, having a better culture. And that's kind of what sparked it. I always wanted to write a book, but that really motivated me to go to that next step. So the title, my mom used to say, never speak from the neck up, speak from the heart up. In other words, be passionate about what you say, care about what you say, be honest about what you say. And, because if it's from the neck, hey, Dolan, how are you? Well, Claudio, I've had a tough time today. Okay, Dolan, thanks. See ya. Well, wait a minute. I really didn't care what you said. They used to say Roberto Clemente used to order a cup of coffee passionately, right? So that's what that's from. But I opened the book, I believe I opened the book with a story from 1993. I was head coach at Community College, Beaver County. I was 27, I believe. And I think 27. And it was a back and forth regular season game. We win the game.
Sure.
And I'm drained as I always am, right? And my players are high-fiving, and they come over and they give me a hug. I said, "Oh, coach, we won. So I remember being in the office, and I was just drained, right? But then something hit me. I said, why is it that in my coaching career in high school and two colleges, that these players like me, that they listen to me, that they want to win for me? What is it?" And then two things hit me. I'm approachable and I care. And, Dick Vermeil, the Super Bowl winning coach with the Rams, he said, your players won't care how much you know till they know how much you care. So my players know how much I care. And, but again, I don't want to jump into your next question about good people, but you can have the greatest. Vince Lombardi is known as, one of the greatest coaches of all time. Jim Valvano, who I talk about, was extremely passionate, loved his players. Chuck Knox, being from Los Angeles, if you remember that name, he was head coach of the Rams. Chuck was like an uncle to me. He grew up with my dad like 2 blocks from here, right? So I studied and I listened to Chuck when we would talk. So, but you can have the greatest coach in the world, but if you don't have the players, and again, forgive me, but I said the 3 most important things in real estate are good location, good location, good location. Then I used to say the 3 most important things in coaching, business, and life are good people, good people, good people. But I've changed that, modified that too. 3 most important things in coaching and business and life are the right people, the right people, the right people. For example, it's you have to have the right people. Like, I'd like to think that, if you ask me to do an interview, great. Ask me to speak, terrific. Coach, great. If you ask me to do anything technical or to fix your plumbing or to fix your carburetor, I'm a wonderful guy, but you got the wrong guy. I'm not the right person, okay? So you have to have the right people. And I've studied teams all these years, the Green Bay Packers of the 60s, the Steelers of the 70s, the LA Rams of that 73 to 77. Jim Valvano's 83 NC State team. These teams, especially that 83 team, which was not supposed to do anything, NC State basketball, or some of my championship teams, we weren't supposed to do anything, but we did. Why? Special people. How do you know if you have a special team or special group?
Yeah.
We won. CMU had 40 consecutive losing years before I got there, at least 40. Well, we started doing pretty good, but then the team of 15, 16, we won our conference championship. And it was huge accomplishment, huge. In 17, I said, man, they're all seniors. We're really going to take off, right? We got off to a slow start, which you can't afford to do. And I remember telling the guys, hey, look, we have to win 8 games in a row to make the playoffs. And one of my players said, Coach, how are we going to win 8 games in a row? And I said, he wasn't being funny. He was just, just asked to blurt it out respectfully. I said, the young boy asked the old man, how do you achieve success in life? And the old man said, by eating an elephant. The young boy said, well, how do you eat an elephant? The old man said, 1 bite at a time, right? So we would play 1 game at a time. Well, then when we would break the huddle, instead of saying win or hits or team or whatever, like everybody else does, those guys said elephants. Special people. And we didn't win 8 games in a row. We won 5. But to this day, I keep in touch with many of those guys. I just had a young man text me yesterday. He had a baby boy, and they're all extremely successful in life and in business and politics and just doing great, but just great people. And no wonder why we won. They could play.
Yeah.
But they were just
love that, Claudio, because I think that's one of the things that I'll go back to a couple of things that you were talking about, and kind of earlier, that's why I write stuff down, otherwise I'll lose it. Words are like fish, right? You got to skewer them on the end of a pin. But it's funny because one of
There
the
you
things
go.
that I think that's really important, and leaders, as you're listening to this, go back and rewind the last 3 or 4 minutes of the podcast here and listen to what Claudio was talking about, because I love what you were talking about, staying in the study. One of the things that I've started again coming into this year is reading the Lombardi rules again, going back and rereading his book, right? And
Yeah.
going through, because it's straight up. It's like, this is how it is. But stay in that study, and study from those of you around you who've climbed that mountain. How did they do it? What did they do? It doesn't mean you're going to master it, but it's going to give you that ability to go. You got a starting point to go try, fail, try, fail, try, fail. Can get at it. The I liked your analogy of the elephant, though, eating it one bite at a time. When you're working with leaders, I'm kind of curious because there's a mindset shift with leaders right, because you coach the team as head coach. You're coaching team, but you're also coaching coaches, right? So one of the challenges in coaching coaches, developing leaders in any organization, I think, is helping them see that one bite at a time. There is that big elephant that's standing on the field, but how do you help them stay focused on that one bite at a time? Let's just get this.
Dolan, they have to
Yeah.
want it. Again, the right people. They have to want to, be it a player or a coach or a CEO. They have to.
Sure.
I'll give you a perfect example. A few years ago, I was speaking in front of some doctors, and I was told it was going to be a rough room
Sure.
because they're very intelligent. They're doctors. They have a ton of money. What's a baseball guy,
Yeah.
who owns? What's he going to do for me? There was, I don't know, maybe 40 doctors in there. There was a couple in there that really had an attitude. And instead of me focusing on them and trying to convince them to listen to me, I paid attention to everybody else. I tried, but I wasn't going to waste my time on them and forget
Yeah.
about everybody else. So I knew my content was good. I knew my delivery was good. But they just didn't want any part of it because they knew it all. And they didn't know it all because I heard they had very poor bedside manners. And as far as their success as a doctor, So again, you have to have somebody that wants to listen. You have to have somebody that wants to learn. Even players, for example. I've been incredibly blessed to have players that wanted to listen and wanted to learn and wanted to get better. Then you have a couple that
Yeah.
already they know the name
Right.
of the unknown soldier. They know everything. And unfortunately, they know the name of the unknown soldier, but it's the wrong name. And they don't know
Right.
what the hell they're doing, and they're hitting about 230. You know, you try to get through them, and this has happened to me. So I'll talk. I'll say, look, you're not listening, you're not paying attention, you're not succeeding. Trust me. It's all about trust. I want you to succeed as a player, as a person. And if that player doesn't listen still, I'll try again. I'll keep trying. Okay. Then maybe I'll raise up the decibel level and I'll get mad about it and try to get through them that way. I'll try to do this. I'll try to do that. Maybe let them fail. Then try to work on them after that. And then if they don't want to listen after that, well, then that's, again, Greg Norman says, don't change people, change people. You know, uh, maybe that's controversial to say, give it everything you have, Dolan, try. And hopefully it sinks in. But if it doesn't, they're just not the right person. Doesn't mean they're a bad person. It means they're not the right person for you. But I enjoy talking to people to improve. And it's a very simple thing. Again, obviously you have to know what you're doing as a professional, as a coach, as a podcaster, as a doctor, as a mechanic, as whatever. But that's beside the point. How do you treat people? Do people want to play for you? And the right people. You have to have the right team. You mentioned them. You listen to those players to this day, or even some of them have passed. Bart Starr and Paul Hornig and Forrest Gregg and
Great name.
Jim Kramer. Those guys, when they speak of him, they break up, they cry, and then they talk about what Lombardi, his words, did for them, not just as a player, but as a person. Jim Valvano. It wasn't just the famous Jimmy V speech, But it wasn't just what he shot him how to shoot a basketball. It was life. If all I do as a coach is teach my players how to hit a ball, catch a ball, and throw it, I didn't do my job. I want to teach them how to hit life's curveballs. Okay. But if they don't want to listen, or if they really don't care, and I'll be very blunt with you and very open with you, because not everything is as Rocky Balboa said.
Right.
Not every life isn't sunshine and roses. We had lost a few games, and in this series, and I told my players, I was basically telling them about putting things in perspective. Right. Say, hey, my mom passed in my arms when I was 23. She was 48. And I adored my mother. And she passed away. As I'm telling this story, this kid kind of laughed a little bit. Well, I wanted to snap out and blow up. But I didn't. The old me would have. But the older me did not. So I said, you know what? To hell with it. So I said something else. And I walked away. At the end of the day, that kid suffered. It was that kid's loss, not mine. Okay? Because what I was going to teach him and teach the kids, that life isn't going to be easy. You're going to have failure. So, you're going to go after jobs. You're going to lose. You're going to have loss in your life. How do you deal with it? Okay, so I was trying to talk, and then you put things in perspective. Yes, it was hard that we lost this series of a game. But let's figure out why we lost, fix it, and move on. And so I was trying to say, now, when my mom passed, that was terrible. Losing a couple games will be okay. But he didn't let me finish.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about that, Claudio, because I think that's when leaders in organizations, when they're building that team, they lose track. I think it's easy to lose track that talent doesn't equal right. It just doesn't. There's so when you're, and when you're working with those individuals, leaders are going to have, and leaders, I would encourage you to, think about that. Listen to what Claudio's talking about, because they are very talented. If there is not a desire, you can't teach desire. Desire is something that you can motivate people, and that's extrinsic, right? You can offer money, and you can offer this, and you can offer that, but you can't teach someone desire. So when you're working with your team, if that desire doesn't exist, that talent doesn't necessarily mean they're a right fit for your organization. When you had those, I'm kind of curious, as you were talking about that, Claudio, as you had those one or two folks that just weren't right? And they're in the body of a team that you're trying to build. What's the impact in the team, and then how do you govern that impact or throttle that impact in the team?
You can, again, you try everything you can to get to somebody. Mike Singletary, the Hall of Fame football player, was the head coach of the 49ers. There was a tight end, and I always forget his name. But anyway, he removed him from the game, and he told him to leave. Well, the tight end didn't leave, took his helmet off and sat on the bench. Well, Singletary saw him on the bench, went over to him, and he pointed. He said, I want you out of here. And the tight end wasn't moving. And Singletary said a few other words. Then the guy got up, and he started walking away, and Singletary followed him till the thing. In his famous press conference, which you can see on YouTube, he said, you can't win with a player like that. He goes, can't do it, right? Now, that tight end, if it'll hit me sometime today, but that tight end said, if that didn't happen, Vernon Davis, he said, I would not have the life I have today. That moment of Mike Singletary's disciplinary action helped him. I'm paraphrasing here, but that helped him because Vernon Davis was a very intelligent guy, going through whatever, maybe his age, whatever. But he matured and he appreciated it. Now, there's another current NFL player who played for this one particular team for a couple years, incredibly talented, could be the best at his position. But he was a problem in college, so the coach thought he could get to him in the pros. Didn't work, okay? He's with another team now. has had other issues. You know,
Sure.
Obviously the guy doesn't want to learn, so or want to mature. Now, again, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have that want, that desire, as you said, to get better, to improve,
of course,
and we all make mistakes, we're all human, but to mature, to do the right things, to be disciplined, hey, then you have to move on because you're wasting your time, and you hope that person says, you know what, people are giving up on me. I'm heading in the wrong direction. I have to fix this. Now, as far as it affecting the rest of the team, I tell you what happens when you have a special group. When there was I just heard of a story of, I want to say the 79 Pittsburgh Steelers. Robin Cole, a friend of mine who was a linebacker for the Steelers, was a rookie. So somebody did something. A few guys did something on that great team, but again, they're human. And Joe Green told the pilot, me and Joe Green told the pilot, don't leave yet. He told everybody, hey, we're going to work our tails off at practice. And if you don't, get the hell off the plane now. All right. And then everybody did what they did, and they went on. The rest is history. My point is, if you have team leaders, and if you have the right people on that team, that person who doesn't want to listen, who doesn't want to work, who doesn't want to get better, who doesn't want to learn, who doesn't want to improve, who doesn't want to, as I say, pull the same rope at the same time in the same direction for the same purpose, though he'll stand out, he or she will stand out, and somebody on that team is going to say, you know what, we've had enough. You're not the right fit here. So sometimes the coach doesn't have to do a damn thing. The player, you know how they say the cream rises to the top. Well, so does the bad. It rises to the top. Everybody recognizes it. That person is hurting us, and you're gone. And there's nothing worse. It's one thing for a leader to get rid of you. It's another thing for your coworkers,
that's
teammates, to want you.
It's interesting you say that, because having led teams before, I've seen that in a couple of organizations, teams that I've led, when that individual is on the team and they are not the fit, the team tends to take care of it. The team steps in.
Exactly.
But it's interesting because I think a lot of leaders, and such a great example, right, to drag the football player, and I just forgot his name too. But anyway, but to take him off field, right, and say, no, I said you got to go, and then to stick with it for the betterment of the team. I think two things happen. One, the team knows that you've got their backs, which is parlance for trust, right? That you're actually watching out for their benefit, and that person who's that, not the right influence on the team has moved away. It's good that, he learned a lesson and came back, and not all people do that. They learned a lesson. And I think it's a challenge for leaders to kind of to be able to step back and have the courage to recognize that, and then take an action on it, and not just let it continue.
Yeah, and it's a fine line, Dolan. It isn't like, for example, you look on your milk container and it says the due date, expiration date is January 6th. When does that person go say, you know what, you're right? When? So you try and you try and you try and you try different ways. Like I said, there's just different decibel levels. You try to talk. You try to maybe have a one-on-one outside of the office, outside of the baseball field, outside of school, whatever, a different atmosphere, different. You'll know when. So, Claudio, when do you get rid of somebody? When is enough enough? I don't know, but you'll know. You'll know when you've exasperated everything. You've done everything you can. You've tried. You've talked. You've prodded. You've given examples. You've been emotional. You've told stories. You get examples. And if this person just, it's almost like if we're doing this interview, and maybe, hopefully, you haven't had this problem, but I co-host a show, and we asked this one person some questions.
Yes.
One word. So tell us how you got started in business. I needed the money. Okay. Are you passionate about this business?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And you're like pulling teeth. And then you say, you know what, let's cut the interview.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. And you get the hell out of there. So you'll know,
Yeah.
you trust, you said the word trust. And I'm going through that now, and it's getting to the brink. Okay. Maybe by the show this time airs, I don't know, but it's difficult, Dolan, because look, I want, when somebody leaves my presence, first of all, I'm always honored and appreciative. And you said the word gratitude several times. I'm appreciative when somebody invites me to their house for dinner, or to go golfing, or to be on a show, or whatever. I don't want to be that guy where, when you call me and you see or I call you and you see my name.
Right.
So, oh, God, I don't want to deal with him. Like, I was really looking forward to this interview, right? I couldn't wait. And I don't want to say, oh man, I got to talk to Dolan. Oh, I don't want that, right? I don't want that. So I don't want to coach that or work with that kind of person. But I'm trying to be patient. Chuck Daly, the NBA Hall of Fame basketball coach, had probably the greatest line ever when they said, "How were you able to coach that Detroit Pistons team with Rodman and Thomas and Lambeer and Sally and Mahorn and all those guys?" And he had the greatest quote of all time. It's something I'm trying to do with my life, business and professionally, personally. He said, "Bad eyesight, lousy hearing, and poor memory." Great line, right? And I'm pretty sure I read that about Chuck Daly. So I'm trying to do that. I'm trying like hell to do that. And I'm trying not to hear everything, trying to forget things, but eventually, but I don't want to look, I don't want to be mad. I don't want to get upset at you. I don't want to holler at you, but I don't want to be disrespected either. Again, let's pull the same rope at the same time.
I think, Claudio, that's really important because as part of it, there's a bunch of dimensions to that, to the impact of that person inside of the body of the organization. It's disrespect to you, disrespect to the team workers, it's disrespect to the goal, disrespect to the outcome that you're eating that elephant, one bite at a time, trying to win 8 games in a row. It's just there's a whole stream that comes to that, and it's funny you mentioned that because in my career, there's those moments in time where so I've been guilty sometimes of that, where you wonder, is my heart too big? Should I just put a fork in this guy and they're done? Or what else could I do? What else am I missing that what haven't I done? And then there is that moment where there's a Zen-like moment where you go, you know what? It's time. It's time.
Yeah. And for example, let's say, we're doing this interview and you're asking me questions about leadership and I'm talking about cars, or I'm giving you one-word answers or whatever, or I'm rude to you. And then you say, "But Claudio, let's cut this off. Thank you." Okay, so you cut it off. Then I go around and tell my wife, "Man, Dolan cut the interview off. He got rid of me. No, Dolan didn't do anything. Yeah. I got rid of myself." It isn't like you'll hear the famous, infamous tagline with teachers. When the kid gets an A, "Oh, my daughter got an A." Oh, good. But when he gets a C, he or she gets a C or a D.
Right.
The teacher gave me a C, D, or an F. No, you did that. So take responsibility, accountability. But again, it all goes to having the right people. And I've been so lucky. And I was just telling the story the other day. There was a game in 2014, the fall of 2014. If we win this game in the fall, we will be in first place in the spring. And you needed to be in first place in the spring to have a shot for the playoffs. So we're winning this game and we start losing. And then one of my players, and again, I get emotional even thinking about this, but two of my players stuck out. three, Daryl Tan, Darren Kerfoot, and Samir Kaluri, they came over to me smiling. They said, Coach, don't worry. We're going to win this for you because we know how bad you want it.
Right.
They wanted it bad too, but they wanted to win it for me. Darren, who pitched the day before, was catching that day, which is unheard of. He said, Coach, I want to pitch. Darren, you pitched yesterday. No. I want to pitch because I want to win this game.
Wow.
And he had a smirk on his face. Then Samir comes over to me and says, Coach, relax. We're going to win this. I didn't make one. We played in extra innings. I didn't make one call. I was in tears. I wear sunglasses when I coach. I was in tears. I didn't give one signal. I didn't call any play. We ended up winning that game. And maybe that was the key. I didn't call any signals. But and Daryl Tans, I can still see they're smiling. And when you have people like that, boy, you can accomplish anything. But I've been so, you said some people might say, well, Claudio, maybe because you were good to them. Yes, I was incredibly good to them on and off the field. But I've had great math teachers over the years. I didn't pay attention. Those guys wanted to learn. They wanted to listen. They wanted to be better. And they liked isn't the right word. They let what I said to them soak in. I had one of my players is a speechwriter for a major politician in Washington. And he jokes, he uses some of my quotes and lines, but he told me one time about, again, eating the elephant and all this kind of stuff. And before we hung up, he said, Coach, I love you. Man, that means the world to me. When I got sick in October, I had diverticulitis. Man, that was but I had numerous players call me and text me. And then one of my best friends I coached back in high school, his name is Vince Kaplak. And, Vinny's a 3 o'clock in the morning friend. If I need some, if he answers the phone, he'll do whatever for me as I will for him. So, but you have to have the right people. It's almost like an Alice Cooper audience going to Andrea Bocelli. Yeah. It's not a good mix, and vice versa.
Maybe not.
You have to have a good mix. And I'm very grateful and I'm lucky. And so as a CEO, as a coach, as a leader, maybe the most important thing you do, besides being authentic and speaking from the heart up, maybe the most important thing you do is not just, as you said, not just find the most talented person. Find the right person who's going to listen, adhere to what you say once.
Yeah.
He's that type of person, in other words. He's emotional. Like for me, I want somebody who's passionate, emotional, that when he gets knocked down, he gets back up, that will do whatever it takes to win, that and I've been, again, so damn lucky over the years to, when you call a huddle, and your players come in and you're giving them that Newt Rockney speech and they go out there and, man, there's nothing better than that. But if you say something and they don't want to hear it, which has happened to me, and I've had to get upset about it. But people are wired the way they're wired. Hopefully you can do some fixing, and you try, keep trying. But eventually you get rid of them. You didn't get rid of them. They get rid of themselves. What's the political quote? Part, I didn't leave that particular party. That part left me.
Yeah, I love that. And it just as a leaders, you rewind and listen to all of it. Listen to this podcast again. There's 1,000 nuggets that you're putting out there, Claudio, that I think is really important. But to your point, just as a tip of the hat back, one thing that you said just in passing, just real briefly, was, those the three players, right? And it's amazing too that he had pitched the day before, catching, and went back to the mound. That's a lot of work. But I was a catcher. My position was catching. My arm sucked, but I could get to second base, so I could do that. But when you're doing that, it's not about being good. It's about the dynamic of the relationship. And when your team is willing to come accomplish that goal, that objective, and in this case, win the game. And your team says, don't worry, we got this. Then as a leader, you've done your job.
Yeah.
And
well, they allowed me to do my job. meaning that, again,
Yeah.
they could have said,
Yeah, exactly.
But,
And I think sometimes the hardest part for the leader then is to release it, is to just release and say, go do it. Then
yeah. Well, I tell you, when there was a story again on my birthday, if we win this game, this is years ago, 2008, I think. And again, CMU had years of losing. So if we win this game, we have the most wins ever at CMU baseball.
Yeah.
And we're losing 8-0, right? And it's my birthday. So I want to win this game because we win that game. We're the team that won the most games. And these guys were special. Man, they were special. But they were saying, hey, man, it's Coach's birthday. They didn't say anything about the all-time wins. They said about my birthday. We make this miraculous comeback. We tie that. There's this one kid, Brett, great kid. He gets a game the game tying hit, right? In the last inning. He's a second base. Now I have something that coaches usually don't have, that luxury. I have time to think. There was a pitching change. So I said, Brett, come here. Look, it's 8-8. You are the game-winning run. We have our best, there's 2 outs, but we have our best hitters coming up. If it's hit to left field, he has no arm. It's wet out there. I'm sending you. He wasn't the fastest guy in the world by no means, but he was going to get a good jump. If it goes left, I'm sending you. Center fielder, I'm sending you. Right field, I'm not sending you. Do you hear him? Because he's got a cannon. He's already thrown 2 runners out. He's playing up.
Sure.
The other guys were playing up too, but they just did not have good arms, and it was wet out there. Okay. So did you hear me, Brett? Yeah, Coach, I got it. If it's hit to right field, don't even look. Just stop dead here. I got it, Coach. Okay. So the game's ready to go. I said, Brett, remember what I said? Yeah. If it's hit, remember, so I'm kind of making all these gestures. He goes, yeah, Coach, I got it. All right, Brett.
Oh, right
Where's
field.
the ball hit, Dolan? Right field. What do? I send him. I just told him 6 times not to go.
Wow.
I sent him. He got thrown out by a mile. I said, I mean, he didn't even slide. The catcher had to go get him. So, and this is in my book as well. So then I told the guys, hey, I messed up. I said, get me out of this. And my pitcher, John Cohns, I can still see it. He picks up his glove. Coach, don't worry. We'll get it. They were very casual, confident because we were hot. We were getting good. Yeah. We lost. So as is custom, at the end of the game, we run down to the left or right field for a post-game speech. Dolan and I couldn't talk. And I remember having my hands on my knees, bending over. I have sunglasses on, and my tears are being caught by my sunglasses. And I said, I'm sorry. Now, some people say, oh, leader, you can't show any emotion. You can't say I'm sorry. Well, if I screwed up, I said, hey, I let you down. I screwed up. I let the moment of the game-winning hit and, everybody cheering and all that, I messed up. I let you guys down. I said, I'm sorry. So over here was John Cohns. He said, Coach, if I would have pitched better, we'd have won. My catcher, Brian Tabata, he said, Coach, if I would have gotten that hit with the bases loaded, we'd have won. My center fielder, James Langhauser, he said, Coach, if I'd have caught that one ball in right center, we'd have won. Yeah. And there was no way in hell James could. And James was great. There was no way he could catch that ball. But they blamed themselves. Do you know why? Yes, they were wonderful people. But when they messed up, I didn't browbeat them. We fixed what the problem was, and we moved on. And I showed them compassion, and I cared. And now when I messed up, they did the same thing. Now, to your leaders out there, if somebody messes up, let's say again this podcast, at the beginning there was some issues, and it was my fault that Dolan couldn't hear me, right? And I'm looking at, I mean, I didn't do that, of course. We fixed it, but let's just say, I'm looking, hey Dolan, man, I gotta go. Let's go. Come on, Dolan. And Dolan's trying to get the thing fixed. you know what, Dolan, the hell with it. We didn't do it. Now, Dolan, who I do want actually on my show, let's say Dolan's on my show next. And let's say now there's some tech issues on my end. Dolan's going to say, hey, Claudio, you know what? The hell with it. Let's
Absolutely.
cut it. You see, I'm trying to say, my point is, if I was wrong with my players, if I embarrassed them, if I got on them or criticized them or ridiculed them, or what's wrong with you? You know, you missed that ground ball or whatever. When I mess up, and you will mess up as a leader, maybe they wouldn't have said anything. But while I'm crying or having tears in my eyes, they say, good for him. Now he knows what it's like. But I treated them good. They reciprocated because they're the right people. And, so again, you know what? It's about being common sense, treating people how you want treated. And that's
such a key
how the hell it's not that
I love that story, but it is that it's that willingness to be vulnerable, to know, hey, I did exactly the opposite of what I told you I was going to do. Yeah. And I screwed up by changing my mind at the last second, because I know I confused the shit out of you guys by sending you down the line when I said I wasn't going to do that. But I think in organizations there's this thing I love talking about, and then we're going to shift towards kind of wrapping up the podcast here. I told you there's no elegant way out. I'll just warn you ahead of time. But one of the things that there's this thing I talk about, and I'll send them to you, called the 5 lies. And one of the first lies is I have to be right all the time. And that's not what it is. When I was the CEO, I used to tell my team all the time, what you're hoping for is that I have I said batting average. I had a good batting average, that at least when I make a decision, I'm right at least half of the time. And that half of the decisions that I make half of the time work. That's what you're hoping for, because we're all fallible. We're gonna do the best we got with what we have. So, yeah.
And one more quote: Boom Boom Mancini, the former boxing champion, Hall of Famer, he said, "It's a quick trip from the penthouse to the outhouse." So you know what? Just relax. So last story: Rocky Graziano, another.
That's all right.
I know more than just Italians, by the way. But anyway. He won the middleweight championship, and he had gotten in some trouble when he was a kid and all that. So he wins the championship against Tony Zale. They're doing a ticker tape parade for him in New York City, and his wife Norma says, "Rocky, look where you used to get in trouble. That you got arrested and you did this. They have a ticker tape parade for you. The people who arrested you are waving to you." He goes, "Yeah, Norma, it's great, but one of these days somebody's going to give me a good right here, and it's going to be all over. So enjoy it. But somebody up there likes me." And that's where the movie, Paul Newman, Somebody Up There Likes Me. And then he wrote a sequel to that called Somebody Down Here Likes Me Too. But you put things in perspective. And, do the best you can. Try to help people. Try to have impact on people, Dolan. That's amazing. That's really
what we do, which is a good segue. And thank you for the gentle segue there. But it's a good segue. I want to let's just kind of in the last couple of minutes together here, talk just a little bit about your business, your coaching business, coaching leaders, as you're working through things in your career. Just talk a little bit about your business, what you do, enterprises, and then your website, how people can get a hold of you. Because in leaders, you hear me say this frequently. Stay in the study. Never leave the study. So I would encourage you, go to Amazon, go to wherever you got to go to the website, go to Claudio's website and get the book. Lead from the heart up, not from the neck up. But go get the book, read the book, learn the lessons. It's those lessons. If you read the book, first of all, leaders, let me know, right? That you read the book. I would love to know that you did. But the second thing is, if you take away one sentence that changes an outcome that magnifies somebody else's life, you've done a good job. So go get the book, go get that sentence that's going to magnify somebody's success.
And I'm going to send you the book too, by the way, so give me your address. But you can go to my website at claudioreilsono.com.
Perfect.
Even if you spell it wrong, Google it, it'll pop up, and there you can get my book. You can listen to my other shows. And as far as what I do, basically what we do here, I just don't. It's like a doctor. You go to the doctor, he doesn't start giving you pills or medication. He wants to hear what your problem is. He gives you a physical. What I like to do is, okay, what's going on? And then you tell me, and then I pull off I tell my wife, Linda, and my daughter, Ida, all the time, I've had an incredible life, but I went to the best university in the world. That's right where I live, University, on Chestnut Street here in Swickley, and all the experiences I've had. I've been through so much, good and bad. Oh, so this is what you're going through. Let me look at this textbook. Bang, and I'll give you a story and on how to fix it. And now you have to apply it. But so that's what I like to do, and it's just so important to me. And I would like to shift over to that. Like I said, I do some shows and I do some speaking. I want to do more speaking. Want to do more things like this. Want to do more leadership events and more coaching. Business, personal coaching. And so that's my goal. That's my next thing I want to do. And I've been blessed to accomplish everything else I wanted to do. Now I want to do this. And once I'm done with baseball, or baseball is done with me, and try to have, more impact on people, because I think with my life experiences, because that's one thing, the media wants to separate us all, divide us. And we all have one common thread. We all go through adversity. We all want to succeed. We all go through good and bad times.
I love that.
So I like
and thank you for that. I love that approach. That's the, always tell my clients, and I'm not going to beat you with a hammer until you fit my model. So that makes no sense at all. All right. Well, on that note, two things. First thing is reshare some gratitude and some appreciation. I have really enjoyed the conversation, and I love the stories, and this has been a really, really good conversation. So thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing the wisdom about right people, about eating the elephant one bite at a time, and building teams that do things for you because you've done things for them. Not treating people good, but you've built the relationships that add that power of trust. So this has been a really powerful conversation. I've enjoyed it a lot.
I have too, and you do a great job, and I appreciate you. And I'm going to give you a call here in a couple minutes. I have another show I got to do, one of my shows that I got to do.
Yeah.
But I'm going to call you here in a couple minutes. But I'm really appreciative of you bringing me on, and hopefully your listeners get something out of it. Contact Dolan or contact me. Let me know what you think. And Dolan's a good man, so he's definitely a good guy.
And all your contact information, leaders, all the contact information will be in the show notes, wherever you go to see the podcast, and YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, wherever you go. Last thing is, leaders, 2 steps: give the show a no, like, share, follow, subscribe, comment. It has nothing to do with building vanity numbers. It has the ability to elevate the show so it's more visible to other people who are in a position where they need help. And your job, leaders, is to help them succeed. We're all on a mission to empower 1 million leaders. So share the podcast, comment, tell your friends about it, help someone succeed. You change their life. You make the world a better place. On that note, thank you for being here. I'm Dolan, host of the Next Interview Show podcast. Thanks, everybody, for being with me today. Thank you, Claudio.
Thanks for listening to today's podcast. Be sure to give it a like, subscribe, or follow, and leave a comment about what you learned. And we'll see you on the next episode of The Next Interview.